Imagine the despair of seeing your child lifeless, his body small, motionless, unresponsive, and suddenly something impossible happens. He comes back. But he doesn't just come back to life. He brings a message from heaven, a message that left everyone silent. This is the true story of a child who died and came back saying he spoke to Jesus. If you believe that miracles still happen, that God uses little ones to reveal the invisible, stay until the end. And if you feel something, when you hear this story, write in the comments, I believe that God still speaks to children. The doctors had already given up. The emergency room was silent. The mother held her son's hand, which was already freezing, but suddenly, a sigh, a slight movement. The child opens his eyes and says, in a soft but firm voice, I saw Jesus. No one understood. The medical team rushed back, but the boy was calm, no pain, no confusion, just peace. And then he began to talk, describing a place with such a bright light. But it didn't hurt the eyes, a light that embraced. The child said he was in a place where everything was peaceful. There was no fear, no pain, no tears. And there he saw a man with the most loving eyes anyone could imagine. A serene face, a presence that made everything around him shine. It was Jesus, he said. He called me by name. Can you imagine that? A child of only a few years old, speaking with such certainty, like someone who came back from a place that human eyes cannot reach. Stay with us, because what comes next will give you even more goosebumps. The child said that Jesus held his hand and said, it's not your time yet. I have something for you to accomplish on earth. And then he showed images of his family, of people crying, and said that God was taking care of all of them. You will return, and when you grow up, you will help many people. These were the words of Jesus, according to the boy. He also said that he felt as if he were being wrapped by angels' wings, and that even after leaving there, he felt peace accompanying him. And then, as if he was brought back by an invisible force, the child woke up. He looked at his mother and said, Mommy, Jesus loves you. The woman burst into tears. The doctors had no words, just looks of astonishment and reverence. The story spread throughout the hospital. Nurses stopped to listen. People knelt down. There was no way to explain it with logic or science. It was faith. It was a miracle. It was something that only God can do. The most impressive thing was the way the boy spoke, without fear, without doubt. He spoke as if he was certain, and each word he said seemed to touch the heart of those who listened. After that day, the child changed. She began to talk about God often. She prayed before going to sleep. She comforted those who were sad. It was as if something inside her had been ignited. Soon, the story reached the local church. Many people began to visit the family. They wanted to hear from the child what she had seen, and every time he told it, someone got emotional. Someone started believing again. Have you ever heard something like this before? If so, write it in the comments. If not, continue, because what Jesus said at the end of the vision will touch your heart. Before leaving that place of light, Jesus said, tell the world that I am coming back. These words kept echoing in the boy's mind, and he repeated them often with tears in his eyes, as if he knew the urgency behind them. After the miracle, the parents changed. They went back to church. They started praying together, and the mother said, I didn't believe it until I saw God return my son with a mission. Did all this happen by chance, or is God using children to remind us that heaven is real, that Jesus is alive, and that simple faith can move mountains? In the Bible, Jesus said, let the little children come to me, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Children see what adults have forgotten. They feel what many ignore, and when they speak, we must listen carefully. If you have felt something special up until now, don't ignore it. It could be God touching your heart. It could be a call to return, to pray again, to believe once more. Share this video with someone who needs faith. Write in the comments, I believe that Jesus still speaks to us. And subscribe to the channel for more real stories that prove that heaven is closer than we imagine. After the event, other children began to report similar dreams. They spoke of light, angels, and a smiling man dressed in white, as if heaven were revealing itself to the little ones. The parents, who were previously skeptical, began to listen more carefully, because there was no denying it. Something supernatural was happening, and it all started with a child who came back from the dead with a message. A seed of faith was planted in many homes, and it began to blossom in forgotten hearts, in people who needed a sign. Why did Jesus choose a child? Because her faith has no filters, doubts, or pride. She truly believes. She loves without self-interest. And when she speaks of God, she speaks with a pure heart. Perhaps this is what God expects of us: a simple faith, a total trust, a love that doesn't need to be seen to believe. Like that child's. Days later, a nurse from the hospital returned to see the boy. She said she couldn't stop thinking about what she saw. At that moment, she asked the family for prayer, and she cried, right there in the hallway. Something had been awakened in her, maybe hope, maybe dormant faith, but certainly a reunion with God. We live in a fast-paced world where miracles are discredited. But what if the signs are still there, just waiting for hearts willing to notice? This story is one of those signs. It calls us to slow down, to look up, to listen more to the children, and to ask, Lord, what do you want to show me? The boy's mother said she was suffering from depression. She thought God had forgotten her, but when she saw her son return, something changed forever. She said the light the boy described, it seemed to have entered their home and never left. Today, she helps other mothers pray for their children, and she repeats a phrase every day: Jesus is never late. Today, as he is older, the boy still remembers the vision. He prays before going to sleep. He speaks lovingly about Jesus at school, and he has even said, I want to grow up and preach the gospel. Everything changed with that heavenly encounter. It was not just a miracle in his life, it was a calling, a mission, and he knows it. Perhaps you are asking yourself, does God still speak to me? The answer is in this story. Yes, he does, through dreams, through the word, through children, and maybe through this video now. This video is not just a story. It is a reminder that heaven is real, that Jesus is still among us, that miracles have not ceased, that you can still start over, and that sometimes the voice we need to hear comes from the people we least expect, like a child. What if it were your child? What if God spoke to someone in your home? Would you listen? Would you believe? Sometimes we are so distracted that we let the sacred go unnoticed. But today, you had the chance to see, to feel, and to choose. If this story touched your heart, share it with someone who needs faith. Help this message reach the world. Write in the comments, Jesus still speaks to little ones. And subscribe to the channel for more real testimonies. Remember, God can use anyone, even the little ones, to show that heaven is real.